everyone, and welcome to the Fire Neural Network's brand new podcast series called Fired Up. We are so excited to include guests from all over the world who are fire experts in the industry. And so today, we're very excited to bring on FNN's own John Kern, who is definitely a subject matter expert in fire behavior and wildfire suppression. He's the former Deputy Chief of Field Operations for the Florida Fire Service, and he actually just retired after 35 years in the service. So without further ado, I'd love to bring on John to the show. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Christine. Great to be here.
So let's first start off with a little background. I'd love to learn about where you're from and how you got into the fire industry.
Sure. I grew up in upstate New York. Always had kind of a passion for being out in the environment outside, fishing, riding our bike, always out in the fields with my friends growing up. So we had that, go camping with the family, things like that, out to the Rocky Mountains, and always enjoyed kind of studying that. And my family would explain to us things about the environment, why certain trees would grow here and why deserts would be over there, that sort of thing. So I always had kind of a leaning towards that. Got through high school and was looking at different colleges and was drawn to Syracuse University has got a environmental science and forestry school there. So I did get a degree in forestry out of Syracuse, New York, and then put my applications out there as one does at graduation time. And luckily for me, Florida Forest Service, Division of Forestry at the time, 35 plus years ago, we're hiring firefighters / foresters. So I came on down with my wife at the time to start that career with the Florida Forest Service, learning the ropes, learning the specific trees and things like that that are growing down here in Florida and forestry as it was here. Really didn't come in with a lot of fire background coming out of upstate New York. Wildland fires up there, kind of few and far between. But down here in Florida, fire is a real important natural part of the ecosystem. We are the lightning capital of the North America and the United States here in Florida. So fire plays a really important role in how our trees and plants and animals are all adapted. Fire has to be part of the ecosystem. Otherwise, things get kind of out of whack there. So I've always had kind of a background in enjoying the outdoors and understanding, and then that science background as well of wanting to know why things are growing, where they're growing, and how to help them out and how to help preserve things.
And what a fantastic balance of something so cerebral and so scientific, but then it really gets you out in the field and to experience nature and to protect nature too. So that is a great segue into describing your passion for what you do. What drives you and what has kept you in this industry for so long?
Right. Yeah. So it certainly did start out there with wanting to understand, how to be able to use the environment. We do need products out of the environment there, like agriculture comes off the land and things like that. And timber does provide lots of paper products and construction products and other even chemicals and things like that off the land. And we can do that in a balance, but it does take some science and some studying to know which trees you should plant where, when to harvest them, and then how to also do it in a way that it allows for hunting and recreation and water quality and things like that to also be part of that ecosystem that we're trying to preserve. They call it multiple use management. And so I was really interested in that. Actually started out more of an urban forester in Fort Lauderdale, helping with street trees and urban heat islands and how to dissipate, that heat and keep things safer there and a little bit cooler in those urban heat islands, which is really front of topic now. I was doing that back in the 80s and 90s there. We were worried about, almost global warming at the time, but just, that urban areas are too warm. It really does help people's psyche as well to have more trees around and people heal faster. And it's just good for human beings to be around trees as opposed to just strictly urban landscape. So I started out as an urban forester, but then I think it was, I was out on a prescribed burn where we're applying fire out in the sawgrass, out in the Everglades from an airboat, one of those boats with a big fan on the back of it that pushes across a very shallow water. We were doing a prescribed burn out there, and it was just exciting. I really liked the teamwork that was going on there with the multiple teams trying to keep, and we did keep the fire within the confines. But if there is just a small spot fire that goes across your line when you're out doing this in an airboat, way that you fight that fire is to go straight towards it, turn your boat sideways, and then just slide over the little bit of grass that's on fire and smash it down into the water, and it pops up on the other side of the boat extinguished. I'm like, all right, there's a career for me.
Definitely. That sounds exhilarating.
I'm getting paid for this. All right, let's do more of this and learn more about it. And I did. And so I really had kind of a feeling that I liked weather and, the environment and all that. And that all plays into the fire behavior. How do you do it safely? How do you do it efficiently? You don't just jump into every fire exactly the same. Fires, obviously, in sawgrass versus the melaleuca, the tall trees, and palmettos are all different kinds of fires that we fight with different types of equipment. And there's a whole supervisory structure that goes along with that, the incident command system, where you've got different division soups and squad bosses, and it's all broken down kind of like in a military fashion where you have platoons and battalions and that sort of thing. But we have our different operations and plans and finance and logistics all broken out into kind of neat organizational structures. So I liked learning that and also teaching those things. And one way to really learn a topic, as you probably know, is to have to give a talk about it. So if I'm out teaching classes on fire behavior, I certainly have to stay up with the latest science on it. So that's how I kind of moved into the passion of it, just seeing the different wildfires and the effects that those were having and how our people can help stay safe, fight those efficiently, be out on fires where we were having to close down interstates and just the impact that has on so many people. How do we minimize that? And some of the ways that we minimize that is through prescribed burning, reducing those fuel loads beforehand when the wind's blowing away from those roads. Take care of it then so that if a lightning strike does come along later on, those fuels have been burned recently and it's a less catastrophic scene. So just, all that teamwork, science, the action of, fighting fire out there, that dynamic circumstance that you're working in is all just very exciting to me. And I wanted to help our people learn more about it, help the public learn more about it. I was a public information officer when I was down in South Florida for a while, explaining to the news media, to the public, what's going on with our wildfires and what the effects might be and the timing of when we might be able to get things under control. So that was all very interesting.
You've done it all.
Well, you try. The Florida Forest Service is good about that, starting out kind of at the bottom, learn the basics there before they put you into a more leadership role, where I did eventually end up on our incident management teams as well as day-to-day operations with forestry.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've been exposed to all the different facets of the fire industry, and I'm curious through the years that you've been in fire, how you've seen it progress. Speaking specifically about technology, if you can speak a little bit about how.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Well, so being the old guy here in the room, that it has changed a lot. When we first started out with our fire behavior, it was all literally lookup tables in books. We were sharing a story the other day with some of my other retirees where in the county, there was one person had the aerial photos, and you would buy the aerial photos every few years. You could afford to buy the book of aerial photos, and we would put a sheet of plastic over it, and we would write on that because it couldn't ruin the one set. And nowadays, obviously, everybody reaches for their phone. This is exactly where we are on this fire with a map that's geo-referenced and all that. So our fire behavior started out very much the same way, with lookup tables where you'd come down the column with the temperatures here and the humidities there. That gives me a dew point of this number. And then we would plug that into another worksheet, draw some graphs around it, come up with it, get a ruler out on our paper maps, draw where we think it is on that part, and then redo all those calculations on a different part of the map. Go over to the third part of the map where the fire is going backwards and have to do it all over again, all by paper, all in a time crunch. And then again, how do you share that? Now, okay, great. Now I have the map. How do I get that out to the 100 firefighters that we've got on the scene? So you would have a briefing with a board. Everybody would have to apply to it. As soon as something changed, it was very difficult to really relay that in a good situational awareness, common operating theater, things that we have nowadays. So it started out slow computers, DOS programs where you had to type the word run in and list and see what you had, and just, really almost laughable at this point, but it was what we had. I made the use of it. So nowadays we have got satellites, circling around. We have got layers upon layers of GIS information about our fuels and the slope, and the weather is so much better. It's down to several kilometers of digital forecasts every hour. They can tell us when the sea breeze is going to be coming in, things like that. So our ability to have a much better product out there for our firefighters, for the planners, is just outstanding. We can do 1 hour, 2 hour, or we can go out 3 or 4 days with really good accuracy. And an important thing that we're doing nowadays, especially as these fires are just getting so big. I've been on fires, going through my little list there, but in most of the western states, Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, California, and especially recently out in California, it seems, with these mega fires literally getting to 1 million acres. When I was starting out, if you were out west on a fire that was 50,000 acres, it was a very big fire. 100,000 acres. Wow. Pretty rare to be on that. Now I've been on fires that, we're at 500,000 acres and going. People are going to the fire for 2 weeks, coming home for a couple of weeks, coming back to the exact same fire because it's still going for shift after shift. So not only do we need to do those fire behavior forecasts for 1 or 2 days, we're having to look months out, or even certainly weeks and weeks out, but months out. And we do have got that technology now. We've been gathering the data, the weather for months and months across the summer, and then storing that for the past 20 or 30 years at some locations. And we can use climatology to say, okay, here's where the fire is now. What is the probability of it actually making it to the top of this mountain or down this to the Snake River and where the cabins are, and how long will that take? And it could be weeks and weeks out in front. But we're looking at those possibilities now, not just where's the fire right now and where's it going to be in a couple hours, but days out and weeks out as well. And we never had that ability in the past to be able to crunch those kind of numbers out on the wildland fire scene. And again, the communication to our crews is so much better now too, through the use of infrared airplanes going by, getting us an infrared map of where it's at. We can download that to our computers, make it geo-referenced, and then send it out in various programs to people that they have on their phone, so they know exactly where they are on the ground and where that hot spot that we're interested in is, exactly 200 feet in front of them and off to the right a little bit, so that they don't have to search in these dangerous rocky conditions for that little bit of smoke. They're able to really get directed in there very well. And that actually reminds me of another one of the technologies we got up there is the drones that we're able to use nowadays. Yes. It's just something that, of course, we had back in the day, 1, maybe 2 helicopters in the entire state of Florida. So we'd have a fire that we would need a helicopter on. They're like, well, we can get it to you there probably tomorrow afternoon. And you're fighting fire right now. You've got fires crossing roads right now. And they're offering you a helicopter tomorrow, which we would take because it was going down tomorrow. But nowadays, it's we've got 5 or 6 or 7 helicopters that we can use. The U.S. Forest Service has some that we can borrow. And then, like we were saying with the drones, those are just another platform that we can immediately launch. Sheriffs are carrying them. Local fire departments have got them. We can get it up, get that aerial view, make sure our bulldozers are going in right where they should, but not get into trouble with a hidden canal or something out there that they wouldn't see until too late. So just all sorts of different aspects of technology have blossomed, and it is just great fun to be part of that.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, the scope of the fires have increased, but fortunately, the technology seems like it's been catching up. So I think that's a perfect segue to chat about FNN. So super exciting company using AI to detect wildfires in record-breaking times. I'd love to just ask you a question about how you found FNN, the work that you do with FNN, and why you believe in this product.
All right. Yeah, it was kind of the other way around. I didn't find FNN; they found me. We had the company leaders Istvan and Tomasz Krezi there developed a new innovative way of further analyzing lightning strikes. In the past, when we talked about that technology, we would be able to get a map that was, hours and hours, perhaps a day old, of yesterday's lightning on a big statewide map. And it would just have positive or negative lightning strikes on it, 2 different types of lightning. And they would say, those positive ones are a little bit more dangerous, but there are so many negative ones, they're dangerous too. So it would just be a map covered with lightning strikes. And that's something, but close to too much information. But the Crezzies there were able to develop this new detection system that looks at long continuous current lightning. So just the real specific types of lightning that strike and really have a greater efficiency at causing that heating that leads to wildfires. So they had that new technology out there and wanted to certainly apply it to help the environment, to help global warming, fighting that, and to help keep firefighters safe. So they contacted the Florida Forest Service up in Tallahassee, said, we really needed a little something about fire behavior. And then my guys up in Tallahassee gave me a call when I was working still at the time for the Florida Forest Service and said, here, John, give these guys a call. Let them know a little bit of something about fire behavior and see if we can't, help each other out there, help teach them about that. And they'll teach us about their technology. And what a great collaboration it did turn into that they're, like you said, on that cutting edge of using artificial intelligence and the machine learning. In the past, we would look at, obviously, the relationships between lightning. So the substantive question always was, out of these, actually, I just looked this morning, there was over 7,000 lightning strikes in our little section of Florida, the middle of Florida, in the last 24 hours. So 7,000 strikes. It's probably going to result in probably 10 or more lightning fires. So how do we figure out of those 7,000 strikes, what are those 10 or maybe the top 100 dangerous lightning strikes? How do we identify those? Relay that information on to the people that need to know, the land managers, the public, and the firefighters, where those are going to be. So in the past, we used to just look at one or two elements of the weather, how many days since it's rained and what is the wind speed. And we would compare that to the data of the fires that had occurred under those conditions in the past. So we're looking at one or two elements, making some assumptions there and assessing fire danger, if you will, to that situation. But now, after I got contacted by Fire Neural Networks, we said, well, let's put the computers to work, just like you were saying there. That's what they do. They love data. They're hungry for data. So that was my role, was to secure the information. It's all public records out there, but I know, where to get it from different sources to get all the fire information from the national forests here in Florida and also the Florida Forest Service. Thousands of fires that we had identified over the past several years. Put that into the machine learning there, if you will, of their exact location and the timing that those fires did occur, and then put the lightning information, and those were all just lightning. We sorted them out for the cause being lightning. So we're just looking at lightning fires at the time. And then I also went in, there's certain weather systems out there that I was able to secure the data for. Again, it's all public stuff, but just knowing kind of where it is and what to get. Helped out, grabbed all that weather, hourly weather from 43 different weather stations around the state for several years. So just the amount of data that is hourly. We have temperature and wind and rainfall and direction and the amount of sunlight that's out there, and humidity, vapor pressure, just all these different elements that the computer just says, yeah, keep it coming. Whereas humans, it would be charts and lines and graphs and you'd be overwhelmed immediately. But through this AI, we're able to put that in there and really make strong connections between all those different weather elements. And as those lead into fire danger elements of how dry the fuels are and what type of fuels they are, to really make those links between the actual fires that occurred, the type of lightning that occurred at that time, and then what the weather was beforehand and even afterwards. Because sometimes these lightning fires don't come out for 2 or 3 days after the lightning strike. They just sit there and smolder. And so we need to know what is it that lets them smolder and then come out a couple of days later, and how do we warn people about that? So it was really exciting to put those machines to work where before it used to just be charts and graphs and things, and now we're making some really good progress there.
Definitely. And to be able to leverage that data, it's just such a deep level of data that you haven't had before. Has that helped the department strategize in specific ways in terms of, understanding patterns of different lightning strikes and locations, and how helpful has that data been for?
Right. It has been helpful, and it is only going to get better and better as we analyze more and more of the fire data. We've got a great relationship with the current folks there in Florida, with the Florida Forest Service. We've got 10 detectors out, located around the center of the state, which is where most of the lightning occurs and many of the fires there. So we're getting reports back from them on where the fires were. Some of them are really small. Some of them are several hundred acres they end up being. So they're letting us know exactly where the lightning occurred and where the fire occurred. And we are comparing that to our maps figuring out where the cutoff is. I mean, we could show them, like the old stuff, every strike that's out there, but that's not very helpful. So what we're going to do is, dial it down to just those ones that resulted in fires, look at the different factors, let the computers do their analysis of it, along with the human beings that are out there looking at it, creating dashboards where we can adjust, if you will, sliders of how dry the fuel should be, how much rain is enough rain to really put them out, so we can adjust all this. So that's kind of the stage we're at right now, is that we've got the technology, we've got the computers doing their learning, just more and more data going into the system right now is making it much more useful. And our duty officers, the people that are dispatching crews to fires, are certainly using the data now. They can use that lightning information to give people a heads up that are out, even in the recreation or just out marking timber, to let them know about lightning that's occurring in the area. It's not just the fires, but we want to keep all of our people that are safe out there that are also working in the field.
Absolutely. So as we're winding down for this episode, one last question for you. Do you have any words of advice to other fire departments or people in the fire industry?
Yeah, I guess it would be to keep an open mind about the use of technology out there, and to have, like we do with the fire neural networks, lots of young, innovative, super smart people working there. It's easy to keep doing the same thing over and over and say, yeah, we've been fighting fire for 35 years, and we know how to get a call about a lightning strike, and we can send the bulldozers out there and catch it most of the time, and certainly keep people safe most of the time. But why not use satellite imagery? Why not use GIS to share information about the actual fuels, to notice the changes, to know where we've had prescribed burns that would offer opportunity to our firefighters? Use this machine learning and the AI to look at weather patterns over longer periods. Use the drones that are available to us to get up and look at these fires, so that we don't have to put people out there on the ground, stepping over rocks, interacting with dangerous wildlife out there. Tree falls are a very dangerous part of firefighting. So anytime we can limit humans' exposure to those dangers while still providing the needed fire suppression out there, I think the idea is just to keep your mind open, look for new solutions, new ways of doing things. The climate is clearly changing. People's expectations are still there that fires can be controlled by humans. That is getting tougher and tougher to do. So we need to find our help, find our planning, find our better efficiencies everywhere we can. And fire neural networks is certainly helping us do that.
Great. Well, John, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge in this the world of fire. It's becoming ever more salient as more and more wildfires are spreading across the world, unfortunately. So, like you said,
not just the U.S., but Canada as well, right? This year, they are certainly in the headlines.
Yes, definitely. John, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Happy to do it. Thank you.